Nanny hired to care for comatose millionaire's child. What the child does to her. Emily Johnson never imagined that accepting that job would change her life forever. When she responded to the ad to be a nanny for a wealthy family in New York City, she expected only to care for a child while earning a good salary. But upon arriving at the luxurious mansion in the Upper East Side, she discovered that the 8-year-old boy, Ethan William Parker, was confined to a room that had been turned into a private hospital. His mother, businesswoman Catherine Parker, had been in a coma for 3 months in another room in the same wing of the house, the victim of a car accident. "Are you the new nanny?" Ethan asked as soon as Emily entered the room, his big dark eyes watching her with a curiosity she found strange for a child. "Yes, my name is Emily, and you must be Ethan, right?" The boy nodded, but didn't take his eyes off her. He was hooked up to some machines but seemed alert and in good spirits. "Aunt Jennifer said you'll take care of me until I leave the hospital." Emily looked around the room. Everything was very luxurious, with fine wooden furniture and silk curtains. Nothing looked like an ordinary hospital. "Ethan, are you feeling okay? Are you in pain anywhere?" "No, I'm not in pain. I'm just here because the doctors want to observe me after the accident." "But there's something very important you need to know," the boy said, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "What is it, sweetheart?" "My mom hasn't woken up yet because she's waiting for someone to arrive, and I know who that person is." Emily felt a chill. There was something in the way Ethan spoke that unsettled her. "What do you mean, Ethan? Did the doctors say that?" "No, the doctors don't know anything, but I do. And you're going to help me bring that person here." Before Emily could respond, a woman in her 40s entered the room. It was Jennifer Parker, the sister of the comatose businesswoman who had temporarily taken over the family's affairs. "Emily, right? I hope Ethan is behaving well," Jennifer said, but her tone was cold and distant. "Yes, we're just getting to know each other." "Good. I want to make it clear that your job is only to care for Ethan, nothing more. I don't want you meddling in family matters or asking unnecessary questions." Ethan watched the conversation silently, but Emily noticed he clenched his fists when his aunt spoke. "Of course, no problem," Emily replied. "Perfect. Now I need to go to the office. In case of an emergency, call Nurse Nancy. She's always here in the house." When Jennifer left, Ethan turned to Emily with a serious expression. "Did you see how she talked? She doesn't want you to know the truth." "What truth, Ethan?" "About why my mum won't wake up, about the person she's waiting for, and about the secrets hidden in this house." Emily sat in the chair beside the bed. She had worked with many families over the years but had never heard a child speak like this. "Ethan, sometimes when we go through tough situations, our imagination—" "It's not imagination," the boy interrupted with a determination that surprised Emily. "I'll show you, but you have to promise you'll help me." "Help you with what?" "Bring my Aunt Caroline back." Emily's heart raced. Jennifer hadn't mentioned any Aunt Caroline. "Who is Aunt Caroline, Ethan?" "She's my mum's twin sister. They had a fight a long time ago and don't speak anymore. But my mum was planning to reconcile with her before the accident, and I know where she is." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. "Ethan, how do you know all this?" "Because my mum told me. The week before the accident, she was very nervous, making phone calls, going through old papers. One night, she called me into her room and said she was going to try to find Aunt Caroline." Emily began to realize there was much more to this situation than Jennifer had told her. "And do you know where she is?" "Yes, I do. My mother found out she lives in Rochester, working as a teacher at a public elementary school. She showed me a photo she found on social media." Ethan paused and glanced toward the door, as if checking if anyone was listening. "Emily, can you do me a favor?" "Depends on what it is, Ethan." "In my mother's room, there's a secret drawer in her vanity. She showed me where it is. Inside that drawer is a letter she wrote to Aunt Caroline but never sent." "Ethan, I can't go through your mother's things. Please, it's really important. If Aunt Jennifer finds that letter first, she'll destroy it. She doesn't want my mother to reconcile with Aunt Caroline." "Why wouldn't she want that?" Ethan hesitated before answering. Because Aunt Caroline is the real heir to the company. My grandfather left half the company to each of his twin daughters, but when they fought, Aunt Caroline gave up everything and left. But now that my mother is sick, Aunt Jennifer wants to sell the company to some investors. Emily began to grasp the seriousness of the situation. Ethan, this is really serious. Are you sure about this? Yes, I am. I heard Aunt Jennifer talking on the phone with the lawyers. She said if my mother doesn't wake up in 6 months, she'll be able to declare that my mother can no longer run the company. And then? Then she'll sell everything, and I'll be left with nothing. But if Aunt Caroline comes back, she can stop it. That's why my mother wanted to reconcile with her before it was too late. Emily felt a knot in her stomach. If Ethan was right, Jennifer was using her sister's coma to take control of the family business. Ethan, where is your mother's room? At the end of the hall. But you have to be careful. Aunt Jennifer had cameras installed in some parts of the house after the accident. How do you know that? Because I saw the men installing them, and I heard her talking to the security chief about monitoring who goes in and out of the rooms. Emily looked at the medical equipment around Ethan's bed. He seemed perfectly healthy, so why was he still confined at home? Ethan, can I ask you something? Why are you still hooked up to all this equipment? You seem fine. The boy glanced at the wires and monitors. Aunt Jennifer says it's to make sure I'm okay, but I think it's to keep me here, away from people. Since the accident, she hasn't let anyone from school visit me, not even my mother's friends. What about your other relatives, your grandparents? My grandparents passed away when I was little, and my father... Ethan paused, his eyes growing sad. My father left us when I was 5. I don't know where he is. Emily's heart ached. This boy was living through something terrible, isolated in a huge house with only an aunt who seemed to have other motives. Ethan, would you like me to try to find Aunt Caroline? The boy's eyes lit up. You'd do that for me? I can try. But first, I need to understand this whole situation better. Can you tell me more about the fight between your mother and Aunt Caroline? Ethan adjusted himself in bed and began to explain. My mother told me they were very close as children. They did everything together, they were identical, people mixed them up all the time. But when my grandfather got sick, the problems started. What kind of problems? My grandfather left the company to both of them, but he wrote that if one of them wanted out, she'd have to sell her share to the other for a very low price. Aunt Caroline didn't agree with that and said it was unfair. And then? Then they started fighting. Aunt Caroline said my mom was manipulating my grandfather, and my mom said Aunt Caroline just wanted the money. The fight kept getting worse until Aunt Caroline decided to leave and never come back. How long ago was that? About 15 years. I never met Aunt Caroline, but my mom always got sad when she talked about her, especially on birthdays, because they were born on the same day. Emily began to understand why Catherine wanted to reconcile with her sister. 15 years was a long time to hold on to a family feud. Ethan, what about the letter your mom wrote? Do you know what it says? I didn't read all of it, but I saw some parts while she was writing. She asked for forgiveness and said she wanted Aunt Caroline to come back to meet me. To meet you? Yeah. And she said she was afraid something might happen to her and I'd be left alone. Emily felt a chill. It was as if Catherine had sensed something bad might happen. Ethan, had your mom ever had an accident before? Any health problems? No, never. She was always very careful. That's why I think it's weird she crashed the car like that. How did the accident happen? Ethan stayed quiet for a moment, as if trying to remember. She was coming back from a meeting at the company, and it was already nighttime. Her car veered off the road on a curve and hit a tree. Aunt Jennifer said she must have fallen asleep at the wheel, but what? But my mom never drove when she was tired, and that day she was really excited because she'd gotten Aunt Caroline's phone number. Emily felt something was very wrong with this whole story. Ethan, who else was in the house the night of the accident? Just me, my mom, the housekeeper Margaret, and the driver John, but John had left early because he was sick. And Aunt Jennifer? She got there after the hospital called, but it's weird because she lived in Buffalo and got here really fast. What do you mean? The accident was at 10 at night, and she got here before 11. There's no way to get from Buffalo that fast. Emily started to suspect there were far more secrets in that family than Ethan realized. Ethan, do you remember what your mom did that day before leaving for the meeting? Yeah, she kissed me and said when she got back, she'd tell me a surprise. And she gave me a little box, told me to keep it and only open it if something happened to her. Do you still have that box? Yeah, it's hidden here in the room. Ethan pointed to a small plant pot on a table by the window. It's inside the pot, wrapped in plastic so it doesn't get ruined. Did you open it? Yeah. Inside was a small key and a piece of paper with numbers. What numbers? They looked like GPS coordinates. And on the back it said, "For Caroline, with love and longing. K." Emily's heart raced. Catherine really had been planning something before the accident. Ethan, did you enter those coordinates into GPS? I tried, but I couldn't. I don't have a computer and my tablet is with Aunt Jennifer. And the key, any idea what it opens? I don't know. It's a small key. Looks like it's for a safe or a file cabinet. Just then, they heard footsteps in the hallway. Ethan quickly put a finger to his lips, signaling silence. Nurse Nancy walked in carrying a tray of medication. Good afternoon, Ethan. How are you feeling? Fine, Aunt Nancy. The nurse smiled at Emily. You must be the new nanny. I'm Nancy. I've worked here for about 2 years. Nice to meet you, Emily. Ethan is a very special boy. Mature for his age, Nancy said as she prepared the medication. Sometimes I think he understands things better than most adults. Really? Emily asked, curious about the nurse's opinion. Yes, he was always very close to his mom. When Mrs. Catherine was planning... Nancy suddenly stopped speaking, as if realizing she'd said too much. Planning what? Asked Ethan. Nothing major, dear. Just some changes at the company. But Emily noticed Nancy avoided meeting Ethan's eyes when she said it. Nancy, can I ask you something? Emily said once the nurse finished giving Ethan his medication. Of course. Mrs. Jennifer mentioned I shouldn't get involved in family matters. Is that normal? Nancy exchanged a quick glance with Ethan before answering. Mrs. Jennifer is very protective of the family's privacy, especially after the accident. I see. And how is Mrs. Catherine? Any improvement? The doctors say she's clinically stable, but coma cases are always unpredictable. Does she have visitors? No. Mrs. Jennifer preferred to keep things very private. Only the doctors and I have access to her room. After Nancy left, Ethan looked at Emily with a worried expression. You noticed she didn't want to talk about what my mom was planning, right? I did. Seems like everyone here has secrets. Emily, will you still help me find Aunt Caroline? I will, Ethan. But we have to be very careful. I know, Aunt Jennifer can't find out. Emily looked out the window. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange. She felt she was getting into a very complicated situation, but she couldn't abandon this boy who clearly needed help. Ethan, tell me more about your mom. What was she like? Ethan's face lit up. My mom is the most amazing person in the world. She works a lot, but she always makes time for me. On weekends, we go on adventures together. What kind of adventures? We go to the park, the movies. Sometimes she takes me to explore new places. She always says she wants me to see the world and understand how people live. She sounds like a very loving mother. She is, and she always taught me to be honest and help others. That's why I know she wanted to reconcile with Aunt Caroline. She couldn't live knowing she'd hurt her twin sister. And Aunt Jennifer, what's her relationship like with you? Ethan grew thoughtful. Before the accident, Aunt Jennifer hardly ever came here. She only showed up at Christmas and my birthday. But after Mom got sick, she moved in and took over everything. Do you feel like she cares about you? I don't know. Sometimes it seems like it, but other times I feel like I'm just a problem to her. Especially when I ask about my mom or when I can go back to school. You're not going to school? No. Aunt Jennifer said it's better for me to stay here until I'm fully recovered, but I'm fine now. Emily began to suspect Ethan was being deliberately isolated. Ethan, would you like to go back to school? So much. I miss my friends, my classes, my history teacher. He always told amazing stories about early America. Have you told Aunt Jennifer that? Yes, but she always says it's not time yet. At that moment, Emily had an idea. Ethan, do you remember the name of the school where Aunt Caroline works? Yes, Washington Public Elementary School in Rochester. And do you remember her full name? Caroline Elizabeth Parker. My mom showed me on the computer. Emily felt she had enough information to start searching for Caroline. But first, she needed to uncover more about the family's secrets. Ethan, can you show me where your mom's room is? Now? I think it's a good time. Aunt Jennifer said she'd be at the company late. Ethan nodded and started getting out of bed. Emily helped him disconnect the non-essential medical equipment. Can you walk okay? Yeah, I can. These devices are more for monitoring than for treating anything. They left Ethan's room and walked down the luxurious hallway of the mansion. The walls were decorated with expensive paintings, and there were flower vases everywhere. That's my mother's room, Ethan said, pointing to a double door at the end of the hallway. As they approached, Emily noticed a small security camera aimed at the door. Ethan, did you see this camera? Yes, I did. Aunt Jennifer installed it after the accident. She said it was to protect my mother's things. Or to see who enters the room, Emily murmured. They stepped inside, and Emily was amazed. The room was enormous, with a king-size bed, an antique wooden vanity, and several bookshelves filled with books. Where's the hidden drawer? Ethan walked to the vanity and pressed a specific part of the mirror's frame. A small hidden drawer slid open. How did you know about this? My mother showed me. She said if anything ever happened to her, I should take the important papers stored here. Inside the drawer were some documents, a few pieces of jewelry, and a sealed envelope with the name Caroline handwritten on it. This is the letter, Ethan said, his voice trembling. Emily carefully picked up the envelope. It was sealed, but she could feel folded pages inside. Ethan, do you think we should open it? I think so. We need to know what my mother wanted to tell Aunt Caroline. Emily carefully opened the envelope. Inside were 3 handwritten pages in delicate feminine script. My dearest sister Caroline, I know it's been so long since we last spoke, and I know the fault is entirely mine. All these years I've wanted to reach out, but my pride always got in the way. Now, watching my son grow up, I realize I made a terrible mistake, letting our fight tear our family apart. Caroline, I need to ask for your forgiveness, not for wanting to keep the company, but for not fighting to keep us united. You were right when you said Dad was being unfair. I should have stood by you instead of letting greed take over. There's something that weighs on me every day. If anything happens to me, my son Ethan will be left alone. Jennifer is a good person, but she has other interests. She's always believed the company should be sold to the American investors, and I know if I'm not here to stop her, she'll do it. Caroline, Ethan means everything to me, and I know you'd be a wonderful mother to him if it ever came to that. So I beg you, if you receive this letter, please come home. Come meet your nephew and help me protect what our father built. I was planning to find you in person, but things here have grown tense. Jennifer has been holding secret meetings with lawyers and investors. I'm afraid she's planning something to push me out of the company. I've attached the coordinates to a special place where I've hidden important documents. If anything happens to me, these papers will prove you have equal rights to the company. Dad made a secret will that was never filed, and it guarantees your share. Caroline, please forgive me, and please take care of Ethan if I can't. With all my love and regret, Catherine. Emily finished reading the letter with tears in her eyes. Ethan was silent, absorbing everything he'd just heard. My mother was really afraid, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Yes, Ethan, and it seems she had good reason to be. Emily, did you see the coordinates she mentioned? Yes, they must be the same ones in the little box she gave you. Then we need to go to that place and get those documents. Ethan, it could be dangerous if Aunt Jennifer finds out, but we can't let her sell the company, and we can't leave Aunt Caroline in the dark. Emily looked at the 8-year-old boy, who was carrying a burden far too heavy for his age. All right, Ethan, we'll try, but first we need to get in touch with Aunt Caroline. How are we going to do that without Aunt Jennifer finding out? I'll figure it out. I have some contacts who might help me find the phone number for the school where she works. Just then they heard the sound of a car pulling into the garage. It's Aunt Jennifer, Ethan whispered, terrified. Emily quickly tucked the letter back into the envelope and returned it to the hidden drawer. Ethan, go to your room, quick. I'll go downstairs to greet her. They left the room and Ethan ran to his bedroom while Emily descended the grand staircase of the mansion. Jennifer walked in carrying stacks of folders and papers, looking exhausted and stressed. Good evening, Emily. How was your first day? It went well, thank you. Ethan is a very polite boy. That's good. Did he eat well? Take his medication? Yes, Nurse Nancy took care of it. Jennifer nodded and started up the stairs. Tomorrow, I have to travel to Albany for an important meeting. I'll be gone for 2 days. Can you handle Ethan? Of course, no problem. Great. For any emergencies, call Nancy or my cell. When Jennifer disappeared down the upstairs hallway, Emily felt a mix of relief and anxiety. 2 days would be enough time to try contacting Carolyn and maybe even retrieve the documents Catherine had hidden. She went back to Ethan's room and found him pretending to sleep, though he was wide awake. She went upstairs, Emily whispered. Did you hear? She's leaving tomorrow, Ethan said excitedly. I heard. This gives us an opportunity. Are we going to look for Aunt Caroline? Yes, but first I need to make some calls. Emily spent the whole night planning their next steps. She had the name of the school where Caroline worked, the location where Catherine had hidden the documents, and now 2 days free from Jennifer's watchful eye. The next morning, Jennifer said a quick goodbye and left in a black chauffeur-driven van. As soon as she was gone, Emily put her plan into action. First, she called a friend who worked as a secretary at a public school in New York City and asked for help getting the phone number for Washington Public Elementary School in Rochester. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. In less than an hour, Emily had the school's number. Her heart racing, she dialed. Washington Public Elementary School, good morning. Good morning. May I speak with teacher Caroline Elizabeth Parker, please? One moment. I'll transfer you to the faculty room. Emily waited a few minutes that felt like an eternity. Hello? Said a woman's voice. Miss Parker? Yes, this is she. Emily took a deep breath. The moment of truth had arrived. Miss Parker, my name is Emily Johnson. I'm the nanny for Ethan William, your sister Catherine's son. A long silence followed on the other end. How did you get this number? Caroline asked, her voice trembling. It's a long story, Ma'am. Do you have time to talk? It's very important. What do you want to talk about? I haven't spoken to my family in years. Miss Parker, your sister Catherine has been in a coma for 3 months, and your nephew Ethan needs you desperately. Emily heard Caroline take a deep breath. In a coma? What happened? She was in a car accident, but there are many strange things going on, and Ethan asked me to find you. Ethan, how did he even know I existed? Catherine used to talk about you to him, and Professor Caroline. She was planning to look for you before the accident. What do you mean? She wrote a letter asking for forgiveness and saying she wanted to reconcile. She also left some important things for you. Caroline stayed silent for a few moments. Emily, can you give me more details? Where are you? We're in New York City at the family mansion, but Catherine's sister Jennifer is handling everything, and Ethan thinks she's planning to sell the company. Jennifer, I remember her. She was always very ambitious. Professor Caroline, can you come to New York City? Ethan is so alone and needs real family right now. Emily, this is very complicated. I have a life here, my students, my work. Professor, you have family here too. An 8-year-old nephew who dreams of meeting you, and a sister who regretted the fight. Emily heard Caroline crying softly. All right, Emily. I'll request leave from school and travel to New York City today. Can you send me the address? Of course. But Professor Caroline, it's better if you don't come straight to the mansion. Jennifer doesn't know I reached out to you. Then where can we meet? How about a mall nearby? At Westfield Mall, the cafe on the 2nd floor, at 2 in the afternoon. All right, how will I recognize you? I'll be wearing a light blue blouse and I'll bring Ethan with me. Can Ethan leave the hospital? He's not actually hospitalized, he's just being monitored at home, and he's in good health. I see, then we'll meet at 2. When Emily hung up, she ran to Ethan's room to share the news. Ethan, I did it! Aunt Caroline is coming to New York City today. Ethan jumped out of bed, thrilled. Really? She's really coming? Yes. We'll meet her at 2 in the afternoon at the mall. Can I come too? Of course you can. We'll leave here as if we're just going for a walk and meet your aunt. Ethan hugged Emily tightly. Thank you, Emily. Thank you for helping me. You're welcome, sweetheart. Now let's get ready and leave before anyone asks where we're going. They got ready quickly and left the mansion. Emily told Nancy they were going for a walk in the park so Ethan could get some fresh air. On the way to the mall, Ethan was nervous and excited at the same time. Emily, what do you think Aunt Caroline is like? I don't know, Ethan, but if she's your mother's twin, she must look like her. What if she doesn't like me? Ethan, that's impossible. You're a wonderful boy. She'll love you. When they arrived at the mall, Emily chose a table at the cafe where she could see everything. Ethan was restless, watching every woman who passed by. At exactly 2 o'clock, a woman in her 40s with brown hair tied in a bun approached the table. She wore a simple dress and sneakers and carried a modest purse. Emily? The woman asked hesitantly. Professor Caroline? Emily replied, standing up. Yes, it's me. Ethan looked at Caroline and was stunned. She was the spitting image of his mother, with the same dark eyes and face shape. You're Ethan? Caroline asked, her voice trembling. Yes, Aunt Caroline. Caroline knelt in front of Ethan and looked into his eyes. My God, you look just like your mother when she was little. You look like Mom, Ethan said shyly. Caroline couldn't hold back her tears and hugged him tenderly. I'm sorry, Ethan, I should have met you sooner. It's okay, Aunt Caroline. What matters is that you're here now. They sat down, and Emily told Caroline the whole story. Catherine's accident, Jennifer's strange behavior, Ethan's suspicions, and the letter Catherine had written. Can I see that letter? Caroline asked. It's at home, hidden in your sister's room. But I can tell you what was written. Emily repeated the contents of the letter, and Caroline cried harder and harder. Was she afraid of Jennifer? Asked Caroline. Yes, and Ethan thinks Jennifer wants to sell the company to some American investors. That can't happen. Dad never wanted the company to leave the family. Caroline, do you remember any secret will your father might have made? Caroline grew thoughtful. Yes, I do. Shortly before he passed, Dad called me and said he'd made a document ensuring I'd always have rights to the company, even if I'd given them up. But I never saw that document. Catherine wrote in the letter that she hid important documents in a special place. We have the coordinates. Then we need to go there, said Ethan, excited. Hold on, Ethan, said Caroline. First, we need to think carefully about what we're going to do. If there's really a conspiracy, we have to be very careful. Professor Caroline, how long can you stay in New York City? I got a week's leave. I told the school it was a family emergency. Great. That gives us time to sort everything out. Caroline held Ethan's hand. Ethan, tell me about your mother. How was she in the weeks before the accident? She was different. More nervous, making strange phone calls, staying up late working on the computer. And she talked a lot with Mr. Richard. Who's Mr. Richard? He's the family lawyer. He's known Mom since she was a child. Caroline exchanged a meaningful look with Emily. Ethan, do you think your mother was planning to make changes to the company? I think so. She mentioned wanting to do things differently, more fairly. Was Jennifer part of those conversations? No. Mom always sent me out of the room when Aunt Jennifer came to talk about the company. Caroline realized there were family tensions Ethan didn't fully understand yet. Emily, do you think we can get into Catherine's room today? I think so. Jennifer won't be back until tomorrow night. Then let's go. I want to see my sister and read the letter she wrote. They left the mall and headed to the mansion. Caroline was struck by the size and luxury of the house. Our family was never like this when we were kids, Caroline remarked. Catherine really made the company grow so much. When they entered the house, Nancy was in the living room organizing some medical papers. Good afternoon, who are you? Asked Nancy, surprised. I'm Caroline, Catherine's sister. Nancy's eyes widened. You look just like Mrs. Catherine. I didn't know she had a twin sister. We'd been apart for a long time. I heard about the accident and came to see her. How wonderful. Mrs. Catherine sometimes murmurs things in her sleep. She often says, Caroline. Ethan and Emily exchanged hopeful glances. Nancy, can I see my sister? Asked Caroline. Of course. I'll take you to her room. They went upstairs together to Catherine's room. When Caroline saw her sister lying in the hospital bed, connected to machines, she couldn't hold back her emotions. Cat. My cat, Caroline whispered, moving closer to the bed. She took her sister's hand and began speaking softly. Cat, it's me, Caroline. I came back. I'm sorry it took so long. At that moment, something extraordinary happened. Catherine's heart monitors began showing changes, and she lightly squeezed Caroline's hand. Nancy, she squeezed my hand, said Caroline, emotional. It's true. Her heart rate sped up, Nancy confirmed, checking the machines. Ethan rushed to the bedside. Mom, Aunt Caroline is here. You can wake up now. Catherine turned her head slightly toward Ethan's voice. My God, I think she's trying to wake up, said Emily. Nancy checked the equipment more closely. There really are signs of neurological improvement. I'll call the doctor. No, Ethan said quickly. Please don't call yet. Why, Ethan? Because if Aunt Jennifer finds out Mom is getting better, she might do something bad. Caroline looked at Ethan with a mix of admiration and concern. Ethan, why do you think that? Because I heard her talking on the phone. She told someone that if Mom woke up too soon, her plans would go down the drain. Nancy visibly stiffened. Ethan, are you sure about this? Yes. And Emily found the letter Mom wrote to Aunt Caroline. In it, Mom said she was afraid of Aunt Jennifer. Caroline turned to Nancy. Nancy, how long have you worked here? About 2 years. I started when Mrs. Catherine needed special care after a minor surgery. And what's the relationship like between Catherine and Jennifer? Nancy hesitated before answering. Well, they've always had different opinions about the company. Mrs. Jennifer thought Mrs. Catherine was too sentimental in business. Sentimental how? Mrs. Catherine always cared deeply about the employees. She gave lots of benefits, never fired anyone, invested in social programs. Mrs. Jennifer said that wasn't profitable. Caroline began to understand the family dynamic better. Nancy, can you do me a favor? Can you not tell anyone I'm here until I've had a chance to figure things out? Of course, no problem. And can you keep monitoring Catherine's vitals without alerting anyone about her improvements? I can. Actually, I've noticed small improvements for weeks, but Mrs. Jennifer always said not to make a fuss until we were sure. Ethan jumped excitedly. So Mom was already getting better, even before Aunt Caroline came. Yes, Ethan. It seems your mother was waiting for the right moment to wake up, Nancy said, smiling. Caroline moved closer to the bed and began telling Catherine about her life in Rochester, her students, her work as a teacher. And Ethan noticed that with every word, his mother seemed to react more. Aunt Caroline, sing that song Mom loved when you were kids. What song, Ethan? Mom always sang a lullaby when I was little. She said she learned it from you. Caroline smiled and began singing a nursery rhyme they used to sing together. Slaves of Job played Kaksanga. Take it, put it, let it stay, warriors with warriors go zig-zig-zah, warriors with warriors go zig-zig-zah. As the song played, Catherine moved her lips as if trying to sing along. She remembers, Ethan shouted, thrilled. Emily watched everything with a heavy heart. It was beautiful to see the family reuniting, but she knew there were still many problems to solve. Caroline, now that your sister is responding, we need to think about what we'll do about Jennifer and the company. You're right. First, we need to get the documents Catherine hid. Ethan, do you still have the coordinates? Yes, they're right here in my pocket. Ethan pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to Caroline. Let me see. Caroline typed the coordinates into her phone's GPS. Looks like it's a farmhouse in Westchester, about 30 miles from here. Can we go there now? Ethan asked. It might be dangerous to go now. We should wait until tomorrow morning, Emily said. Why dangerous? Ethan, if these coordinates really lead to important documents, and if Jennifer finds out we're looking, she might try to stop us. Caroline agreed. Emily's right. Let's use today to plan better and go early tomorrow. They spent the rest of the afternoon in Catherine's room, telling stories, singing songs, and watching her reactions. It was clear she was improving quickly with her sister and son by her side. Nancy brought dinner for everyone to eat together in the room. "Mrs. Caroline, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course, Nancy. Why did you all go so long without speaking?" Caroline sighed. It was a silly fight over family inheritance. Our father left the company to both of us, but in a way I thought was unfair. Instead of talking it out, I got angry and left. And now I realize I wasted 15 years away from my sister and my nephew. 15 years I'll never get back. Ethan walked over to Caroline. "Aunt Caroline, we can make up for it. From now on, we'll always stay together." Caroline hugged Ethan tenderly. "Yes, my dear. If your mother allows it, I'll be the most present aunt in the world." At that moment, Catherine slowly opened her eyes. "Ethan," she whispered hoarsely. "Mom!" Ethan shouted, running to the bed. My boy!" Catherine said, trying to lift her hand to touch Ethan's face. Caroline stepped closer too, tears in her eyes. "Cat, it's me, Caroline, I came back." Catherine turned her head slowly and looked at her sister. "Caroline, you came..." "Yes, sis. I got your message." What message?" "Ethan found me. He told me about the letter you wrote." Catherine tried to sit up in bed, but she was still too weak. "Ethan, you found Caroline?" "Yes, Mum. Emily helped me, and guess what? Aunt Caroline is a teacher in Rochester." Catherine smiled weakly. "A teacher? I always knew you would be." Nancy checked Catherine's vitals. "Mrs. Catherine, how are you feeling?" "Tired, but happy. So happy. Mum, Aunt Jennifer doesn't know Aunt Caroline is here, and she doesn't know you woke up." Catherine's expression turned serious immediately. "Jennifer, where is she?" "She left yesterday for Albany. She'll be back tomorrow night," Emily explained. "Good. That gives us time." "Time for what, Mum?" "Ethan, you kept the key I gave you." "I did. It's in the plant pot in my room." "And the coordinates?" "Those too. Aunt Caroline already saw them. It's at a farmhouse in Westchester." Catherine tried to sit up straighter in bed. "Caroline, I need to explain so many things." "Easy, Cat, you're still recovering. We can talk slowly." "No, we don't have much time, but Jennifer, she's planning to sell the company." "I know, sis," Ethan told me. "But you don't know everything. She sabotaged my car." Everyone was shocked. "What do you mean, Mom?" "Jennifer found out I was looking for you. Caroline. She didn't want you to come back." Caroline held her sister's hand. "Kat, are you sure about this?" "I am. On the day of the accident, she went to the mechanic, asked to check my car, said it was making a strange noise. And then that night, my brakes didn't work on the curve." Emily felt a chill. "Mrs. Catherine, are you saying Jennifer sabotaged your car?" "I can't prove it, but I'm sure she wanted to stop me from finding Caroline." Ethan was pale. "So Aunt Jennifer tried to hurt you, Mom?" "Ethan, she didn't want to hurt me. Just to scare me, but it went wrong." Caroline was furious. "This is attempted murder. We need to call the police." "No, we can't prove anything. And if we call the police, she'll sell the company before we can stop her." "Then what do we do?" "Tomorrow, you all go to the farmhouse, get the documents. With those papers, we can stop the sale. And then we confront Jennifer with the evidence and offer a deal." Caroline was confused. "What kind of deal?" "She can keep managing the company, but as an employee, not as the owner." "What if she doesn't accept?" Then we'll use the documents to prove our legal rights. Ethan moved closer to his mother. Mom, aren't you afraid of Aunt Jennifer? Not now, because you're here with me. Nancy, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. Mrs. Catherine, may I make a suggestion? Of course, Nancy. Maybe it's best if you pretend to still be in a coma when Mrs. Jennifer returns. That way she won't suspect you've discovered her plans. Good idea. But what about Caroline? How do we explain her presence? We can say Ethan begged so much that I decided to try to find her, suggested Emily. And that I only came to meet my nephew, knowing nothing about the company, added Caroline. Perfect. That way Jennifer won't suspect anything. They spent the rest of the night talking and planning their next steps. Catherine grew visibly stronger with each passing hour, as if her sister's presence were the medicine she needed. The next morning, early, Caroline, Emily, and Ethan prepared to go to the estate in Westchester to retrieve the hidden documents. Mom, we'll be back soon, said Ethan, kissing his mother's forehead. Be careful. And if you run into any trouble, come back immediately. Don't worry, sis, we'll just grab the papers and return. They left the mansion and took Caroline's car. Ethan was excited about the adventure, but Emily was uneasy. Caroline, don't you think this could be a trap? What do you mean? What if Jennifer already knows about these documents and is waiting for us there? I doubt it. If she knew, she would have gone after them already. But what if someone's following us? Caroline checked the rearview mirror. Doesn't seem like it, but we'll stay alert. The estate was in a rural part of Westchester, surrounded by woods and very secluded. When they arrived, they found a locked iron gate. How do we get in? Asked Ethan. Let's see if there's another way in, said Caroline. They walked around the property and found a damaged section of the fence where they could slip through. I think this is it, said Emily. They entered the property and walked to a small, seemingly abandoned cottage. The coordinates point here, said Caroline, checking the GPS. Do you think the documents are inside? Let's see. The front door was locked, but Ethan found a side window that was slightly ajar. I can climb in here, said Ethan. No, Ethan, it's dangerous. Let me go first, said Emily. Emily climbed through the window and opened the door from inside. The cottage was dusty and looked untouched for years. Seems safe. Come in. They entered and began searching for the documents. The cottage had only 3 small rooms. Ethan, did you bring the key your mother gave you? Yes. Ethan pulled a small golden key from his pocket. Now we just need to find what it opens. They searched the entire house but found no safe or filing cabinet. Could we be in the wrong place? Asked Emily. The coordinates are correct. It has to be here, said Caroline. Ethan began examining the walls and floor. Aunt Caroline, look here. Ethan had found a small gap in the wooden floorboards, as if there were a hidden compartment. Help me lift this board, said Caroline. They managed to lift a section of the floor and found a small metal safe buried underneath. This is it, Ethan exclaimed excitedly. Caroline took the key and opened the safe. Inside were several documents, some old photos, and a flash drive. My God, Caroline whispered, picking up one of the documents. What is it? It's our father's secret will. It states that the company must always be jointly managed by the twin daughters or their direct heirs. And what does that mean? It means Jennifer can't sell the company without my authorization. Ethan jumped for joy. So we did it. Not yet, Ethan. We need a lawyer to validate these documents. Emily picked up another paper. Caroline, look at this. It's a report from a private investigation firm. About what? About Jennifer. Your sister was investigating her activities in the company. Caroline quickly scanned the report. I can't believe it. Jennifer was funneling company money into personal accounts. How much money? According to this, over $2 million in the last 2 years. That's why she wants to sell the company so fast, said Emily. To hide the embezzlement. Ethan looked confused. Does that mean Aunt Jennifer is a thief? It means she betrayed your mother's trust, Caroline explained. They stored all the documents in a folder and prepared to return to New York City. On the way back, Caroline was deep in thought. Emily, how should we use this information? I think we should talk to the family lawyer first. What's his name again, Ethan? Dr. Richard Thompson. Do you know where his office is? Yes, it's downtown near the courthouse. Then let's go there before heading home. They went straight to the lawyer's office. Ethan knew the secretary, Mrs. Martha, who was surprised to see him. Ethan, what a surprise. How's your mother? She's getting better, Mrs. Martha. Can I speak with Dr. Richard? It's very important. Of course, dear, he always has time for you. Mrs. Martha led them to the lawyer's office. Richard Thompson was a man in his 60s with graying hair and a serious demeanor. Ethan, my boy, how are you? The lawyer said, standing to hug Ethan. I'm fine, Dr. Richard. I'd like you to meet my Aunt Caroline. Aunt Caroline? Richard looked surprised. Yes, she's my mother's twin sister, and this is Emily, my nanny. Richard greeted both women but seemed puzzled. Mrs. Jennifer never mentioned that Catherine had a twin sister. It's a long story, Dr. Richard. They've been estranged for many years, Emily explained. I see. How can I help you? Caroline opened the folder with the documents. Dr. Richard, we need your help interpreting these papers. Richard took the documents and began reading. His expression changed as he went through them. My goodness, where did you find these? Catherine hid them at a property in Westchester. She left the coordinates for Ethan before the accident. These documents are extremely important. This secret will completely change the company's legal situation. How so? Mrs. Caroline, according to this document, you have equal rights to Catherine in the company. And more, there's a clause preventing the sale of the company without approval from both sisters. What about this report on Jennifer? Richard grew serious. This is very serious. If these figures are correct, Jennifer committed embezzlement and misappropriation. What does that mean? It means she could face criminal and civil charges. Ethan listened intently. Dr. Richard, does this mean Aunt Jennifer can't sell Mom's company? Exactly, Ethan. With these documents, she can't do anything without your Aunt Caroline's authorization. What happens now? Richard thought for a moment. I'll authenticate these papers and prepare a legal injunction to block any sale of the company. But I'll need a power of attorney from Catherine. Oh, Caroline hesitated. That might be a problem. Catherine is unavailable right now. What do you mean? Ethan looked at Caroline and decided to tell the truth. Dr. Richard, my mother has been in a coma for 3 months. In a coma? Richard was shocked. Mrs. Jennifer never told me about this. She didn't tell anyone. She's keeping it a secret. But this is very serious. If Catherine is incapacitated, the legal situation changes completely. What do you mean? Well, if she's truly incapacitated, Jennifer might have obtained a power of attorney or legal guardianship to manage the assets. Caroline and Emily exchanged worried glances. Dr. Richard, but what if my sister wakes up and can sign a power of attorney for me? Then it would be different. With those documents and a valid power of attorney, you'd have full control of the situation. So we need to hope Catherine recovers soon. Actually, Ethan smiled mysteriously. Mom already woke up. What? Richard shouted. She woke up yesterday when Aunt Caroline arrived, but we're pretending she's still in a coma so Aunt Jennifer doesn't suspect anything. Richard was stunned. Ethan, this is very serious. If Catherine is conscious and lucid, we can resolve everything immediately. Then let's go home. Mom's waiting for us. They hurried back to the mansion. Richard was eager to see Catherine and confirm she was truly awake. When they arrived, Nancy greeted them at the door. How was the trip? Great. We found everything we were looking for, said Caroline. And Mrs. Catherine? She's doing well. She spent the whole day asking about you. They went up to Catherine's room. When Richard entered, she was sitting up in bed, visibly stronger than the day before. Richard, Catherine said, smiling. So good to see you. Catherine, thank God you're all right. Mrs. Jennifer told me you were unwell. Unwell is a gentle way of saying I've been in a coma for 3 months. But how? Why? What happened? Catherine quickly explained the accident and her suspicions about Jennifer. Val, this is very serious. You should have come to me sooner. I was going to, Richard. But the accident happened before I could do anything. Caroline showed Catherine the documents. Val, look what we found at the estate. Catherine examined the papers and smiled. Perfect. Now we have everything we need. Richard organized the documents on the table. Catherine, I need you to sign some papers. First, a power of attorney granting Caroline authority to manage the company alongside you. No problem. Then, a revocation of any power of attorney Jennifer might have obtained during your incapacity. That's fine. And finally, a criminal complaint against Jennifer for the embezzlement. Catherine hesitated. Richard, about that. I'd like to talk to Jennifer first. Give her a chance to explain and return the money. Val, you're too generous. She tried to harm you. I know, but she's family. I'd rather resolve this quietly, if possible. Caroline agreed. Sis, you're right. A public scandal would only hurt the company and the employees. Then it's settled. We'll wait for Jennifer to return and confront her with the evidence. Ethan listened carefully. Mum, when Aunt Jennifer gets here, are you going to pretend you're still in a coma? No, Ethan. No more pretending. We'll face this head on. What if she gets angry? She'll be angry no matter what. But now we have the documents and legal backing. She can't do anything against us. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. Richard finished preparing all the documents and Catherine signed everything. Now Caroline had the legal authority to manage the company and Jennifer could no longer make decisions alone. There, said Richard. Now you're legally protected. When Mrs. Jennifer returns, she's in for a big surprise. Dr. Richard, can you stay here when she arrives? Asked Ethan. Of course, Ethan. I think it's important to have a lawyer present for this conversation. They spent the rest of the day preparing for the confrontation with Jennifer. Catherine was growing stronger by the minute, and Caroline was getting familiar with the family business. By late afternoon, they heard the sound of Jennifer's car pulling into the garage. She's here, said Ethan, rushing to the window. Remember, said Catherine, let's try to handle this civilly. Jennifer walked into the house carrying her luggage and papers from her trip. She looked tired and stressed. Emily, how's Ethan doing? Jennifer shouted from downstairs. He's fine, he's up here, Emily replied. Jennifer went upstairs and headed straight to Ethan's room first. Ethan, how are you, sweetheart? Did you miss me? I did, Aunt Jennifer, but a lot happened while you were away. Like what? Aunt Caroline came. Jennifer turned pale. Caroline, what Caroline? Mum's twin sister. She came from Rochester to meet me. Jennifer tried to hide her shock. Oh, what? What a coincidence. And where is she now? In Mom's room with Emily and a lawyer. A lawyer? What lawyer? Dr. Richard. He brought some very important papers. Jennifer was visibly nervous now. Ethan, I'll go greet your aunt. You stay here, okay? Actually, Aunt Jennifer, I want to come too. It's a family discussion. Jennifer couldn't refuse. They walked down the hall together to Catherine's room. When Jennifer entered and saw Catherine sitting up in bed, alert and talking to Caroline, she nearly fainted. Catherine? You're awake. Hi, Jennifer. How was your trip? When did you wake up? Yesterday. When Caroline arrived. Jennifer looked at Caroline with a mix of anger and fear. Caroline, it's been... Hi, Jennifer. 15 years, isn't it? What? What are you doing here? Meeting my nephew and talking to my sister about the family business. Jennifer noticed Richard sitting in an armchair in the corner. Dr. Richard, why are you here? Mrs. Jennifer, I came to settle some important legal matters. What matters? Catherine spoke up. Jennifer, sit down. We need to talk. Jennifer sat in a chair, but was visibly tense. Kat, you should be resting. You just came out of a coma. I'm fine, Jennifer. Actually, I'm great, especially after discovering some interesting things. What What things? Caroline held up the folder with the documents. Jennifer, we found the documents our father hid, including his secret will. Jennifer turned even paler. What secret will? The one that says the company belongs equally to me and Caroline, and can't be sold without both our approvals. That can't be true, Richard interjected. Mrs. Jennifer, the document is authentic. It's been verified and certified. And there's more. More what? We also found the reports from the investigation firm Catherine hired. Jennifer began sweating. What reports? The ones showing the money diverted from the company to your personal accounts. Jennifer stood abruptly. That's a lie. I never... Jennifer, Catherine said firmly but kindly, I know you took over $2 million. I have all the proof. Jennifer started crying. Cat, I can explain. Then explain. Jennifer sat back down and took a deep breath. I was in financial trouble. My ex-husband left me drowning in debt. I thought I could borrow from the company and pay it back later. $2 million, Jennifer. I know it was a lot, but I was going to return it all. When the company was sold, Caroline spoke up. So you'd keep the sale money and still return what you stole. It wasn't stealing, it was a loan. Taking a loan without permission is theft, Jennifer, said Richard. Ethan, who had been silently observing everything, approached his aunt. Aunt Jennifer, why did you do this? Jennifer looked at Ethan with tears in her eyes. Ethan, I didn't mean to hurt any of you. I was just desperate. But you tried to hurt my mom. What do you mean? You sabotaged her car. Jennifer was shocked. Ethan, I would never. I didn't try to hurt your mom. Catherine watched Jennifer's reaction and realized she was being sincere about this. Jennifer, did you tamper with my car on the day of the accident? Yes, but just to check. You said it was making noise. And what did you do? I asked the mechanic to take a look. He said everything was fine. Which mechanic? Carl from the shop around the corner. Catherine exchanged a glance with Caroline. Maybe the accident really had been just an accident. Jennifer, I'll make you an offer, said Catherine. What offer? You'll return all the money you took from the company, and you'll sign a debt confession to guarantee repayment. And then you can keep working at the company, but as an employee, not as an administrator. And if I refuse? Richard spoke up. Then we'll press criminal charges, and you could face 2 to 8 years in prison. Jennifer fell silent for a few minutes, thinking. And will Caroline work at the company too? Yes, I will, said Caroline. But don't worry. My intention isn't to hurt you. It's to help the company grow. And Ethan? What happens to Ethan? Ethan remains my son and the heir to the company when he grows up, said Catherine. Ethan walked up to Jennifer. Aunt Jennifer, you can still be my aunt. I still care about you, I just don't like what you did. Jennifer hugged Ethan and cried, I'm sorry, Ethan, I really am. I was wrong. It's okay, Aunt Jennifer. Everyone makes mistakes sometimes. Jennifer turned to Catherine and Caroline. I accept the offer. I'll return all the money and work to earn back your trust. Richard prepared the documents, and Jennifer signed everything. The debt confession, the settlement agreement, and the transfer of her administrative powers to Caroline. There, said Richard. Now everything is legally settled. Nancy, who had been watching from the doorway, stepped forward. Mrs. Catherine, may I say something? Of course, Nancy. I always knew you'd wake up when the time was right, and that the family would come together again. Catherine smiled. How did you know? Because you kept saying Caroline in your coma, and because Ethan never lost hope. Ethan hugged Nancy. Thank you for taking such good care of Mom, Aunt Nancy. It was my pleasure, Ethan. Richard gathered his papers. Well, my work here is done. Catherine, Caroline, if you need anything, just call. Thank you, Richard, for everything. After Richard left, the family gathered in the dining room for their first meal together in 15 years. I can't believe we're all here, said Caroline, emotional. Neither can I, said Catherine. For 15 years, I dreamed of this moment. "And I dreamed of meeting Aunt Caroline," said Ethan. "And I dreamed of having a real family," said Emily. Everyone looked at Emily, surprised. "Emily, what do you mean?" asked Catherine. "Mrs. Catherine, I grew up in orphanages. I never had a family. But here with you, I felt at home for the first time in my life." Catherine held Emily's hand. "Emily, you saved my family. If it weren't for you, Ethan would never have found Caroline, and Caroline would never have come back. And I would never have met my wonderful nephew," added Caroline. Ethan stood up and hugged Emily. "Emily, will you be my second mom?" Emily began to cry. "Ethan, it would be the greatest honor of my life." Catherine spoke up. "Emily, would you like to keep living here with us? Not as a nanny, but as family." I'd love to, but I don't want to be a burden." "A burden?" said Caroline. "You're the one who brought our family back together." Jennifer, who had stayed quiet the whole time, stood up. Can I say something?" "Of course, Jennifer," said Catherine. "I want to apologize to everyone, especially to you, Ethan. You're just a child and had to go through all this because of me." "Aunt Jennifer, it's okay. What matters is that now we're a real family." "Ethan's right," said Catherine. "The past is the past. Now let's focus on the future." Caroline agreed. "And what a future. We have a company to run, a family to care for, and so much love to share." Nancy appeared in the room. "Can I interrupt? I have a surprise for you." "What surprise, Nancy?" "This morning, when everyone left, I called Ethan's school and explained he was better. They want him back in class on Monday." Ethan jumped for joy. "Really? I can go back to school?" "Yes, you can," said Catherine. "And this time, when your friends ask about your family, you'll have so much to tell. I'll tell them I have a businesswoman mom, a teacher aunt, a nanny second mom, and an aunt who's learning to be a better person." Jennifer smiled through her tears. "Thank you, Ethan, for giving me a second chance." That night, everyone gathered in Catherine's room to talk late into the night. Caroline shared about her life in Rochester, her students, and how she'd always missed her family. "Caroline," said Catherine, "you don't have to go back to Rochester if you don't want to. You can work at the company here. Actually, Kate, I was thinking of something." "What?" "How about we open a branch of the company in Rochester, focused on education and social development?" "I love the idea. I've always wanted the company to have a stronger social side, and I can manage that branch, splitting my time between there and here." "Perfect. That way you don't lose your students, and I don't lose my sister again." Ethan listened with shining eyes. "Aunt Caroline, can I visit you in Rochester during breaks?" "Of course, I'll introduce you to all my students. They'll love meeting my nephew." Emily watched all this family harmony with a full heart. "Mrs. Catherine, can I ask you something?" "Of course, Emily. And you can stop calling me Mrs. We're family now." "Catherine, how can you forgive Jennifer so easily?" Catherine thought for a moment. "Emily, I almost died. And during those 3 months in a coma, I had a lot of time to think. I realized life is too short to hold grudges, and I realized family is the most important thing in the world. Even when family lets us down, especially then, that's when true love is tested." Jennifer, who was listening, moved closer to Catherine. "Kate, I promise I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for what I did." "Jennifer, you don't have to punish yourself forever. You made a mistake, owned up to it, and are willing to make it right. To me, that's enough." Caroline agreed. "Jennifer, when we were kids, Kate was always like this. She forgave everyone. I was the one who held grudges." "And look where that got us," said Catherine, laughing. 15 years apart from my twin sister over silly pride." "It wasn't silly pride, sis. You were right about Dad. He really was unfair to me." "But I could have stood up for you instead of just accepting it," Ethan interrupted. "Mom, Aunt Caroline, can you stop blaming yourselves? What matters is you're together now." The two sisters laughed. "Ethan's right," said Caroline. "Let's focus on the future." "Speaking of the future," said Catherine, "I have some ideas for the company." "What ideas?" "How about turning the company into a family cooperative, where all employees have a share in the profits?" "I love it," said Caroline. "In Rochester, that would work really well." "And we could create a scholarship program for employees' children," suggested Emily. "Excellent idea," said Jennifer. I can help manage that program. I have experience with financial management. Everyone looked at Jennifer, surprised by her willingness to help. Jennifer, are you sure? Asked Catherine. I am. I want to contribute positively, and I know I can use my experience to help the company grow fairly. Ethan clapped his hands. Now we're talking, everyone working together. Nancy appeared at the bedroom door. Everyone, sorry to interrupt, but it's getting late. Mrs. Catherine still needs to rest to fully recover. Nancy is right, said Caroline. Let's let Catherine rest. Actually, said Catherine, I want everyone to stay here tonight. It's been 15 years since I've slept knowing my whole family is nearby. Really? Asked Ethan, excited. Really? Let's have a family sleepover. Everyone laughed and agreed. Caroline went to get her things from the hotel where she was staying, and Emily brought mattresses and pillows to set up a big sleeping area in Catherine's room. Jennifer hesitated. Catherine, are you sure you want me to stay too? I'm sure. Your family, Jennifer. That night, for the first time in 15 years, the whole family slept together. Ethan in the middle, hugging his mother and Aunt Caroline, Emily on a spare bed, and Jennifer in an armchair she insisted on using. Good night, family, said Ethan, drowsy. Good night, my love, replied Catherine. Good night, dear nephew, said Caroline. Good night, Ethan, said Emily. Good night, Ethan. Thank you for giving me a second chance, said Jennifer. The next morning they woke up to the sound of birds singing outside the window. Catherine looked visibly stronger and more energetic. How are you feeling, sis? Asked Caroline. Better than I've felt in the last 15 years. Ethan jumped out of bed. Mom, it's Saturday. Can we do our weekend adventure? What adventure? Asked Caroline, curious. Every Saturday, Mom and I do something special together. Sometimes we go to the park, sometimes to the movies, sometimes we visit new places. How about if today's adventure is visiting the company? Suggested Catherine. The company? Yes. I think it's time for you all to see what we'll be managing together. Caroline was excited. I love the idea. It's been 15 years since I've been there. And I've never been, said Emily. And I want to show Ethan where we work, said Jennifer. They got ready and went together to the company headquarters. It was a modern building in downtown New York City, with several floors and hundreds of employees. When they entered the lobby, the employees were surprised to see Catherine. Mrs. Catherine, the receptionist exclaimed, emotional. You're okay. I'm great, Carol. I want to introduce you to my sister Caroline, who'll be working with us from now on. Sister? You have a sister? Yes, twin. And I also want to introduce Emily, who's now part of our family. The employees gathered in the lobby to greet the reunited family. Many were emotional seeing Catherine well. Mrs. Catherine, said Carl, the production manager, we were all very worried. Mrs. Jennifer said you were traveling for treatment, but we feared it might be something more serious. Catherine looked at Jennifer, who blushed. Carl, I was in a car accident and spent a few months recovering, but now I'm fine and returning to work. What a relief. And this is your twin sister? Yes, this is Caroline. She's a teacher and will help us develop new social projects for the company. Caroline introduced herself to all the employees, who were amazed by the resemblance between the sisters. They took a full tour of the company. Catherine showed every department, explained how each one worked, and introduced the key employees. Aunt Caroline, said Ethan, what do you think of the company? I think it's amazing, Ethan. Your mother built something very special here. Actually, said Catherine, our father started it all. I just continued his work. And now we'll continue it together, said Caroline. At the end of the tour, they gathered in the boardroom to discuss future plans. Well, said Catherine, now that everyone knows the company, let's talk about changes. What kind of changes? Asked Jennifer. First, as we've already decided, Caroline will be co-director with me. Jennifer will be general manager, and Emily will coordinate the new social programs. Me? Asked Emily, surprised. But I don't know anything about business. You know how to care for people, said Catherine, and that's what we need for the social programs. Besides, added Caroline, we'll open a branch in Rochester focused on education. I'll split my time between the two cities. And there's more, said Catherine. We'll implement profit sharing for all employees, and we'll create a scholarship fund for employees' children. Ethan was listening carefully. Mom, can I make a suggestion? Of course, sweetheart. How about creating a program where employees with kids can bring them to the company during school breaks? That way, they won't be home alone. All the women looked at Ethan, impressed. Ethan, that's a fantastic idea, said Caroline. Absolutely, agreed Emily. Many parents worry about their kids during breaks. I love it, said Catherine. We'll implement that too. Jennifer was quiet but finally spoke up. Can I suggest something too? Of course, said Catherine. How about creating a microcredit program for employees who want to start their own businesses? The company lends the money at low interest, and they can pursue their dreams. Jennifer, that's an excellent idea, said Caroline. It shows you truly understand the employees' needs. It's just, I've learned a lot about financial struggles lately, said Jennifer, embarrassed. And that experience can help others, said Catherine warmly. Ethan stood up in his chair. Guys, do you realize we're creating the best company in the world? Everyone laughed. Ethan's right, said Caroline. We're building a company that genuinely cares about people. And that's what our father always wanted, said Catherine. He always said business should serve people, not the other way around. They spent the rest of Saturday planning the company changes. It was thrilling to see the whole family working together, each contributing their skills and experiences. On Sunday, they held a special lunch at the mansion to celebrate the family reunion. Nancy prepared a feast, and they invited Richard and some of the company's closest employees. I'd like to make a toast, said Catherine, raising her glass of juice. To family, everyone replied. No, said Catherine. I want to make a specific toast. To Ethan, who never lost hope. To Emily, who helped us find each other. To Caroline, who had the courage to return. To Jennifer, who had the courage to admit her mistakes. And to Nancy, who took care of me when I needed it most. And to you, sis, said Caroline, who had the courage to forgive. And to the family that always existed in our hearts, even when we were apart, added Emily. Ethan stood up in his chair. And to adventures, because every good family has adventures together. Everyone cheered and laughed. Richard spoke up. You know you're a very special family, don't you? Why do you say that, Dr. Richard? Asked Ethan. Because in 15 years of practicing law, I've never seen a family resolve such serious problems so lovingly. Usually cases like these end in courthouses and never-ending fights. It's because we learned that family is more important than money, said Ethan, with the wisdom of his 8 years. Exactly, said Catherine. And we learned that forgiveness is more powerful than revenge. And that love is stronger than pride, added Caroline. Jennifer stood up. Can I say something? Of course, everyone replied. I want to thank you all for giving me a second chance. I didn't deserve it, but you gave it to me anyway. And I promise I'll honor this second chance for the rest of my life. Ethan ran to hug Jennifer. Aunt Jennifer, everyone deserves a second chance, especially family. That night, after all the guests had left, the family gathered in the living room to talk. I can't believe all this started just a week ago, said Emily. It's true, said Caroline. A week ago I was a lonely teacher in Rochester. Now I'm a co-director of a company and the aunt of an amazing little boy. And I was a nanny with no family, said Emily. Now I have a huge family and a job I love. And I was a woman in a coma, alone and scared, said Catherine. Now I'm surrounded by love. And I was lost, doing the wrong things, said Jennifer. Now I have a chance to be better. Ethan was lying on Catherine's lap. And I was a boy who only had one mom. Now I have a mom, 2 aunts, and a second mom. Ethan, said Caroline, you were the hero of this whole story. I didn't do anything special. I just wanted my family to stay together. Exactly, said Emily. You taught all of us that family is the most important thing in the world. Catherine stroked Ethan's hair. My son, you're only 8 years old, but you're wiser than many adults. That's because you taught me well, Mom. Actually, I think you're the one who taught me. You taught me about hope, about never giving up, and about the power of family love. Caroline got emotional. Ethan, when you grow up, you're going to be an incredible leader, whether in the company or wherever you go. Aunt Caroline, when I grow up, I want our company to be the coolest in the world, where everyone feels like family. And it will be, my love, said Catherine, because now we're a real family, and real families do amazing things together. Jennifer stepped closer. Ethan, can I make you a promise? Of course, Aunt Jennifer. I promise I'll spend the rest of my life striving to be worthy of being part of your family. Aunt Jennifer, you already are, now and forever. Nancy appeared with a chocolate cake. Did someone say today was a day for celebration? Every day is a day for celebration when the family is together, said Ethan, running to hug Nancy. They cut the cake and made another toast. To the new chapter of our lives, said Catherine. To family adventures, said Ethan. To second chances, said Jennifer. To dreams coming true, said Emily. To sisters reunited, said Caroline. And to love that conquers all, said Nancy. That night, as everyone went to sleep, Ethan asked Catherine a question. Mom, do you think Dad would be proud of us? Catherine thought for a moment. I'm sure he would, my love. He always dreamed of seeing our family united and happy. And do you think he's watching us from somewhere? I think so. And I think he's smiling. I think so too. Good night, Mom. Good night, my hero. Ethan fell asleep smiling, knowing he had managed to bring his family together, and that from that day on he would never be alone again. On Monday, Ethan returned to school. When his friends asked where he had been, he proudly told them about his reunited family. Ethan, you have a twin aunt on your mom's side? Asked his friend Sophie. I sure do, and she's a teacher, just like you want to be when you grow up. And your mom is okay. She's great. She woke up from her coma when Aunt Caroline arrived. Family love healed her. Ethan's teacher, Mrs. Mary, overheard the conversation. Ethan, what a beautiful story. Did you learn anything from all this? I learned so much, Mrs. Mary. I learned that family is the most important thing in the world. I learned that we should never give up on the people we love. And I learned that forgiving is better than staying angry. Very good, Ethan. Those are very important lessons. And I also learned that kids can help adults solve problems. How so? Sometimes adults make things complicated, but kids know that the most important thing is to love and forgive. Mrs. Mary smiled. Ethan, would you like to share your story with the whole class? Can I? Of course. I think everyone can learn something from your experience. Ethan told his story to the entire class. The children were fascinated, and many got emotional when he talked about forgiving Aunt Jennifer. Ethan, said his friend Gabriel, weren't you mad at your aunt? A little. But my mum taught me that staying angry only makes you suffer more. What if she does something wrong again? Then we'll talk again. Family always talks to solve problems. When Ethan got home that day, he found the whole family gathered in the living room, planning more changes for the company. How was your first day back at school? Asked Caroline. It was great. I told everyone about our family, and the teacher said our story is inspiring. Inspiring? Asked Emily. Yeah. She said it's not every day a family solves tough problems with love instead of fighting. Catherine hugged Ethan. I'm so proud of you, my son. Why? Because you're spreading a very important message, that love always wins. It's true. And guess what? Sophie said she wants to meet Aunt Caroline because she wants to be a teacher too. Caroline smiled. She can come over any time. I love talking to kids about education. And Gabriel said when his company grows, he wants to do like ours, take good care of the employees. That's wonderful, said Jennifer. You're influencing others in a positive way. Of course. When we do good things, everyone wants to do good things too. That night at dinner, Catherine made an announcement. Everyone, I have a surprise for you. What surprise? Asked Ethan excitedly. I've decided we're going on a family trip to Rochester to see Aunt Caroline's life there. Really? Ethan shouted. Really? Caroline will show us the school where she works, we'll meet her students, and we'll see the land where we'll build the company's branch. And everyone's going? Asked Emily. Everyone, including Jennifer and Nancy. I can't believe it, said Caroline, emotional. I'll get to show my family to my students. And I'll get to see where Aunt Caroline lived before she found us, said Ethan. The trip was scheduled for the following weekend. During the week, everyone prepared eagerly. Caroline called the school and told her colleagues about the family's visit. The principal was so excited, she organized a special reception. On Saturday morning, they set off for Rochester in 2 vans. Ethan was so excited he couldn't stop asking questions about the city. "Aunt Caroline, are your students my age?" "Some are, others are younger, and some are older. I teach several classes." "And do they know you have a nephew?" "Now they do. I spent the whole week talking about you." When they arrived in Rochester, Caroline took them first to see the school. It was a simple public school, but very well kept and full of life. "Teacher Caroline," the children shouted when they saw her arriving. "Hi everyone, I came to introduce you to my family." The students were delighted with Ethan and quickly became friends with him. Emily was moved to see how beloved Caroline was by her students. "Teacher Caroline," said a girl about 10 years old, "your nephew is really cool. Can he come often?" "He will. And listen, he goes to a really good school in New York City and he'll be able to share experiences with you." Catherine was watching everything with admiration. "Caroline, now I understand why you love being a teacher so much." "It's the best job in the world, sis. Every day I plant seeds of knowledge and hope." The school principal, Mrs. Margaret, approached. "Mrs. Caroline always talked about her family in New York City. It's so wonderful you've reunited." "It was our nephew who brought us back together," said Catherine. "Children really have that power. They see with their hearts." During lunch at the school, Ethan completely blended in with Caroline's students. They played soccer together, had hide-and-seek games, and Ethan taught them some games he learned at his school. "Aunt Caroline," Ethan said later in the afternoon, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Your students aren't as well off as my friends in New York City, but they seem happier. Why?" Caroline thought for a moment. "What do you think, Ethan?" "I think it's because they appreciate the simple things more, and because you teach them to dream." "Very good. That's exactly it. When we teach children to value knowledge, friendship and family, they can be happy even without much money." "And is that why our company is going to help schools like this one?" "Exactly. We'll create opportunities for more kids to have access to quality education." Jennifer, who had been watching everything, walked up to Caroline. "Caroline, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "How do you manage to be so dedicated to these children? Because each one of them is a universe of possibilities. When I look at them, I see future doctors, engineers, teachers, artists. Doesn't it frustrate you when you see the struggles they face?" "Sometimes. But then I remember my role isn't to solve all their problems. My role is to give them the tools to solve them themselves." Jennifer was moved. "You inspire me, Caroline. I think I spent years focused on money and forgot what really matters." "It's never too late to change, Jennifer. And now you have the chance to use your experience to help others." Later that afternoon, they visited the lot where the company's branch would be built. It was a large, well-located space, perfect for the project. "This is going to be amazing," Ethan said, running across the lot. "We'll build not just offices, but also classrooms, a library, and a recreation area for the kids in the community," Caroline explained. "Will there be a sports court?" Ethan asked. "Yes, and a pool too. Wow, the kids here are going to love it." Emily imagined what it would be like to work on this project. "Caroline, do you think I could help here too? Of course, you have a natural gift for caring for people. You'd be perfect for coordinating the social programs, but I don't have a background in education." "Emily," Catherine said, "you have something more important than academic training. You have heart, and that's what children need most." On Sunday, before heading back to New York City, they visited the modest house where Caroline lived. It was small but cozy and full of books. "Aunt Caroline, your house is so cool," Ethan said. "Thank you. It's small, but it has everything I need." "And all these books are yours?" "Yes, they are. Some I bought, others were gifts, and a few I borrowed and forgot to return," said Caroline, laughing. Ethan was fascinated by Caroline's personal library. "Can I read some?" "Of course. And when you come to visit, you can pick a few to take home." Catherine was observing the house fondly. "Caroline, this house is so you. Simple, cozy, and full of knowledge." "Thank you, sis. But I admit I'm looking forward to spending more time in New York City too. 15 years away from you all was too long." You don't have to choose, said Ethan. You can have 2 homes, one here and one there. That's right, said Emily. The mansion is huge. There's room for everyone. Caroline smiled. I think I'll take Ethan's suggestion. 2 homes, 2 cities, 1 family. On the way back to New York City, everyone was quiet, taking in everything they had experienced. Ethan, said Catherine, what did you think of the trip? It was the best trip of my life. Now I understand why Aunt Caroline is so special. Why? Because she teaches kids to believe in themselves, just like you did with me. Catherine was moved. Ethan, you always surprise me with your wisdom. It's because I have really great teachers, said Ethan, looking at Catherine and Caroline. Caroline wiped away a tear. Ethan, you just gave me the highest praise a teacher could receive. When they arrived in New York City, it was already nighttime. Everyone was tired but happy. Tomorrow we start the week planning the Rochester branch, said Catherine. And I'll talk to the architects about the project, said Caroline. And I'll research social programs for schools, said Emily. And I'll handle the financial side, said Jennifer. And I'll draw how I want the sports court to look, said Ethan. Everyone laughed. Ethan, you're taking this very seriously, said Nancy. Of course, it's our family's future. I have to help too. That night before bed, Ethan shared a thought with Catherine. Mum, can I tell you something? Of course, sweetheart. When you were in a coma, I was afraid our family would never be whole. And now? Now I know our family isn't just whole, it's growing. We have Aunt Caroline, Emily, Aunt Jennifer who turned good, Aunt Nancy. We're a huge family. That's true. And the best part is, it's a family united by love, not just blood. Yeah, Dr. Richard said some people are born into the same family and others choose to be part of it. And do you like our family this way? I love it, because it means we don't have to be related to love each other. Catherine hugged Ethan tenderly. My son, you teach me so much about life, and you teach me everything, especially about never giving up on the people we love. That's what you did for me, right? You never gave up. Yeah. Even when the doctors said you might not wake up, I knew you'd come back. How did you know? Because you promised you'd never leave me alone. And you always keep your promises. Catherine was deeply moved. Ethan, you're the reason for my life. For you, I'd come back from anywhere. I know, Mom. And now you don't have to come back from anywhere because we'll always be together. Forever? Forever and a day. The end of the story. Now tell us what you thought of this touching story about a family reunited through a child's determination. Ethan taught us that family love can overcome any obstacle and that forgiveness is more powerful than revenge. Do you think Catherine made the right choice by forgiving Jennifer? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other stories that celebrate the transformative power of family love.